Triple H has been one of the most powerful figures in wrestling for over 2 decades, both in the ring and behind the scenes. But power doesn't guarantee harmony in the locker room. Over the years, Triple H has clashed with plenty of wrestlers, sometimes professionally and sometimes personally. Chris Jericho arrived in the WWF in 1999, and his debut was a big deal. He interrupted The Rock live on Raw, and the company made it clear that they saw him as a major signing, but it didn't take long for issues to come up backstage. Some of the more established names in the locker room thought that Jericho's style was too stiff and even unsafe. Within weeks, there was already talk that he was hard to work with and that he wasn't fitting in with the rest of the locker room. X-Pac is said to have compared him to Shane Douglas, a wrestler who had a personal falling out with Triple H and the other members of the clique a few years earlier. The tension reportedly escalated after Jericho's matches with Chyna. She came out of one of those matches with a black eye and a cut that needed stitches. Triple H was dating Chyna at the time, and he allegedly went straight to Vince McMahon with his concerns about how Jericho was working. All of this added to the perception that Y2J wasn't someone the locker room could trust. In an interview on Kurt Angle's podcast, Jericho said, "There was a lot of politics at that time, and when I say this, it's not from a bitter point of view or an angry point of view, it's just the way it was. There was a lot of legit heat between Hunter and myself. It involved a little bit of X-Pac as well, but Hunter and I just didn't like each other, and I think Hunter had such pull at the time, such power. Of course, if he's not going out of his way to bury me to Vince, I'm sure every time my name came up he would go, 'Oh, that guy, come on.' It was just kind of the way the business worked at the time, so I think that might have had a lot to do with it." In December 2001, Jericho won the Undisputed Championship by beating both The Rock and Steve Austin on the same night. This was a huge deal for him, the biggest moment of his career up until this point. He was scheduled to put the title on the line against Triple H, but the storyline focused on Triple H's divorce from Stephanie McMahon. During the build-up to WrestleMania, Jericho was presented as Stephanie's lackey. He appeared in backstage segments where she bossed him around, including one where he had to walk her dog and pick up its crap. Despite being the undisputed champion, he was reduced to being Steph's personal assistant. The storyline ended with Triple H beating Jericho to win the title. In 2002, Triple H talked about Jericho in an interview with Off the Record, where he said that Jericho was a step below the top tier in the WWF and that he was missing a piece of the puzzle. In 2013, during the Authority storyline, Triple H was working as WWE's on-screen COO. In a promo about what it meant to be the face of the company, he mentioned Jericho as someone who was talented, but never at the top level. He responded on social media and said that Triple H had never been the face of the company either. It was another sign that the tension between them had never fully gone away. Ken Shamrock joined the WWF in 1997, just as the company was embarking on the Attitude Era. As a former UFC fighter, he brought real intensity and credibility to the roster, and he was expected to be a major player in the years to come. But even with a good start, he never made it to the main event. Behind the scenes, he was close friends with Bret Hart, which reportedly didn't sit well with certain members of the clique. Bret has claimed that Triple H kept on burying Shamrock behind the scenes, constantly criticising him and trying to turn people against him. He, along with Shawn Michaels, allegedly told Vince McMahon that Shamrock was too stiff in the ring and hard to work with, in an attempt to get him fired. In an interview on the One of a Kind podcast, Bret said, "Triple H and Shawn tried to get him fired for no reason other than they didn't like him. And I just remember Vince called me into his office and he goes, 'I'm thinking about letting Shamrock go.' And I'm like, 'Why?' He goes, 'Some of the guys think he's real stiff.' and this and that, and he didn't even have any reason. He goes, "What do you think? What's your honest opinion?" And I said, "I would keep him. He's doing all right. He's doing great." And then a couple of weeks later, he's refereeing my match with Steve Austin, and they kept him on. And then he had his whole career there. Shamrock said that he even considered quitting the company because of how the atmosphere towards him was backstage. In interviews since, he said that he would go back to WWE if he was invited, but he doesn't think that's likely going to happen. I'd go back in a heartbeat. The only problem with that is I don't think that Triple H wants me there, but it is what it is. It's sad because you've got a big organisation like that. The fans would love to see me go back, love to have me in there, and yet I'm not allowed to go back there. There was already tension between Triple H and Goldberg long before they worked together professionally. Back in the early 2000s, Triple H had allegedly made negative comments about Goldberg's injury record and lack of experience in the business, saying that he wouldn't last very long if he ever came to the WWF. Not long after, the two crossed paths at a press event. According to reports, Goldberg approached Triple H and launched into a tirade, saying that he was going to tear his fucking face off. During the first season of Tough Enough, one of the contestants said that Goldberg was his favourite wrestler. That seemed to enrage Triple H as he laid into Goldberg's reputation with a brutal promo where he questioned his toughness and overall value to the business and basically told the rookie to get a new favourite wrestler. When Goldberg finally joined WWE in 2003, he was put into a feud with Triple H for the World Heavyweight title, but their matches just didn't click and their styles were totally incompatible. Goldberg did win the title, but his reign was short and he lost it back to Triple H just 3 months later, and his momentum never really recovered. There was heat between Triple H and CM Punk years before he ever joined WWE. During his run in Ring of Honor back in 2004, Punk started taking shots at Triple H in promos. He mocked Triple H for being a belt mark, which was a reference to his reign of terror as World Heavyweight Champion at the time. Punk was using the Pepsi Plunge as his finisher at the time, which was basically a top rope version of the pedigree, and according to some, Triple H was not happy about it. According to former WWE writer Court Bauer, when Punk tried out for the company in 2005, he almost didn't get the job. Bauer said that Triple H and Shawn Michaels buried him in front of Vince McMahon and John Laurinaitis, ripping on his look and his in-ring style while he was in the ring performing. Alex Greenfield was also a former WWE writer, and in an interview with MLW Radio, he said, "It was Shawn, Triple H and Arn Anderson. They just f***ed Punk up. I don't know if they knew who CM Punk was, because I certainly didn't. They cut his work apart. They really buried the guy. When Shawn and Hunter were together, they buried a bunch of people who were just starting out. I remember they did the same thing with Bobby Lashley. Even when Punk finally made it to the top of WWE, the tension with Triple H never went away. During his 434-day title reign, Punk still didn't feel like he had Triple H's support. Punk has said that Triple H gave off negative energy and didn't trust him, and Triple H was annoyed that Punk didn't communicate the way he expected him to. In an interview with the High Performance podcast, Triple H said, "I think a lot of times our disagreements over the years came down to bad communication with each other. I was the in-between guy of what the creative team wanted and what he wanted, but I was trying to smooth it all over, and from his point of view, I was seen as the enemy. Then he didn't trust me, so I couldn't get him to open up. I can't collaborate with you if you're not open. He would be closed down, so I couldn't collaborate with him." In 1996, Rocky Maivia made his WWF debut, but he wasn't exactly a huge success. The fans rejected his smiling babyface persona, and things weren't much better backstage. According to Bret Hart, Triple H and Shawn Michaels saw Rock as a threat, and they tried to get him fired. Triple H was always out to get The Rock. Shawn was out to get him, and they just worked on him and worked on him and worked on him. When I left, The Rock was still in the doghouse with those guys. They wanted him out as bad as they wanted me out. Like, they were after him. Maybe a year later, he started getting his break, and he started to take off in WWE, and I'm so glad he overcame their petty bullshit. In an interview, The Rock himself has said that there were a few people backstage who weren't happy with him getting that push back in the late 90s. This is stuff I've never shared, but I do want to share it because it's important. When I started to make the move up the card, and word got around that the office was priming me for a WWE Championship run, there were a handful of guys in the business at the time who did everything they could to stop that run from happening. In 2024, The Rock joined the TKO Board of Directors, which gave him real executive power in WWE, and it quickly became clear that he and Triple H didn't see eye to eye. There's even been speculation that the issues between the men will cause Triple H to leave the company. In a podcast interview, Jonathan Coachman said, "From my time there and my time with The Rock, I know for a fact that he does not get along with Triple H. That does not go away. They've always been butting heads for years and years for a lot of different reasons. There's a big power struggle. Well, first of all, I've talked to two people close to the situation, and we predicted that within 18 months, Triple H will not be running WWE anymore." Coachman went on to say that he believes that The Rock would want his friend and former WWE writer Brian Gewirtz to take over Triple H's job in the company. In recent interviews, The Rock himself has gone out of his way to credit the people he's worked with in WWE, but he rarely ever mentions Triple H. And that silence hasn't gone unnoticed. Some believe that The Rock is positioning himself to take an even bigger role in how WWE is run, and maybe even to get rid of Triple H entirely.